Please welcome Mike Lynds.
Hey everybody, Mike Lynds here. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on some hamstring movements. We're going to, after I warm up on the you see a hamstring curl here, we're going to do some stiff leg deadlifts. And then I'll be showing you some belt squat movements. So we'll go over basically how to kind of target the hamstring and the glute area in both of those. And then we'll talk a bit about training philosophies and nutrition and stuff like that. Give you guys a little bit more information, just not on the training aspect, but also the nutritional aspect. Moving into stiff leg deadlifts. I like doing them on the lever machine, just because it gives me that kind of unilateral movement, kind of like a dumbbell, but sticking into a neutral position. I find with a bar, you're stuck in that motion. Big thing to remember in this is keeping the back nice and stiff. So keeping everything from the head to the hips nice and stiff and elongated, and staying in that tension spot. A lot of people go up too high and they throw their hips into it and they kind of do this kind of arch back. Basically what you're doing is you're taking the tension off the hamstring. So you want full range, or you're getting a full stretch, but you're only coming up to like right about here, so the tension's still on the hamstring, tail end of the glute, and you're not getting up to like full upright, so you're bringing the hips into it. So demonstrate here. So I'm going about hip width apart. So when I go down, I'm basically throwing my hips back for a stiff leg. It's not like a conventional dead where I'm banging at the knees and keeping everything nice and stiff. So chest up, back straight, throwing the hips back, getting that full stretch, and upright again. So this is as high up as you need to go. You don't need to kind of pop right up into stiff. So and you want to feel that tension all the way through the rack. So as you can tell, I'm not going all the way up. So I'm giving myself that break. So try that the next time you're doing stiff legs. If you don't have the machine, you can try dumbbell. But then and again, you gotta feel that motion, excuse me. You wanna feel the complete stretch. Remember, keep that chest up. Don't let your back round, and you're throwing that bum back. So you're feeling that stretch and elongating that spine. So give that a whirl next time you're doing stiff legs. We're going into belt squat now. So other ways of doing this is like a sumo dumbbell. If you have done that before in the past. So basically the whole idea here is if you want to emphasize hamstring and glutes, basically you're going to do a sumo stance. So it's a bit wider than your regular hip width stance, and you are facing your toes away from each other. So when you basically bring your bum down, you're squatting right down into it and you're pressing through that heel, but when you're coming up, you're really you're squeezing as if you're squeezing your knees together instead of kind of the idea of coming back up. So when you're down here, the whole idea of coming back up is you're squeezing those knees together, which is going to emphasize glute flexion, and you're going to be using a bit of hamstring as well, but it's mainly like glute. And yes, your quads are in it because you're doing a squat. So if you don't think your quads are in it, you're sadly mistaken. That's just the whole premise of a squat, is your quads have to fire off. But if you can angle your body in a certain way, manipulate your angles, you can emphasize glute a bit more or hamstrings a bit more. But the main priority muscle is the quad at the end of the day. So just think about you're bringing those, coming up, and you're squeezing those knees together on the way up. Common mistakes are when you're coming up, you're thinking of just getting back up, so you're not really emphasizing that glute squeeze on the way up. and then go into the toe. When you're not sitting down and back, you're just going straight down, which is gonna make you go to the toe because the tension is pulling you straight down with this belt. So if I come straight down, my body it wants to go to the toe. So in the gait of that, you're sitting your bum behind the heel and you're pressing through the heel, but bringing your knees together on the way up. So that is the basic premise and technique behind a bell squat or a dumbbell, what have you. I find with the belt, you can go a little bit heavier than a dumbbell just because you're not physically holding the weight, and you can really emphasize on that lower body tension and flexion. So give it a try the next time you guys are looking to kind of emphasize like a hammy, glute, and then finish up your leg day with some quads, some extensions, leg press, stuff like that. You can really kind of emphasize that. So give it a roll next leg day. Well, a lot of people have this kind of premise that more food, blah, blah, like kind of force feed yourself. I've tried it. I understand their premise because you got to be, to grow, you got to be in a surplus. But there's a big but there. When you start to push too much food, and this isn't just because of the way I think, this is multiple people that I've seen do this style, clients that I've had. If you're pushing too much food, too much calories, the body gets to a point where it physically is struggling to digest that amount of food. So the person or the client themselves are going to start feeling lethargic. They're going to start feeling their strength in the gym kind of diminishes. They're tired all the time. They're like really sluggish, and then their mood starts to decline. And it's all because their body just cannot sustain digesting that much food. So the way I look at it, and one of the very first questions that I always ask the client is, how did your week go? How did your digestion go? Were you hungry or not? And how did you feel? Nothing to do with strength, nothing to do with training. Is all on how they felt physically. Did they feel like they digested the food? Were they getting the meals down? Stuff like that. That tells me so much information just in those 3-4 questions, because it tells me if they're struggling, get that food down, and then they're feeling sluggish and tired, and they're not sleeping, and their in-gym atmosphere feels that they're losing their strength and their gains are basically stagnant. Tells me that they're not digesting their food and their body's working on overtime. So you gotta dial that calories back. And I've had multiple clients that transition from another trainer that they're on just a good 1,000 to 1,500 calories more than what they should be. The first thing I do is I dial back their food and manipulate it in a way that they can still sustain the strength that they've had with that trainer, and they can still sustain the intensity, and I even up the intensity. Within a week, they're telling me their digestion feels good, their stomach feels, they're not as bloated, and their gym, their performance in the gym is heightened. Everything revolves around digestion. How can you digest your nutrients? How are you absorbing your nutrients? And people just don't understand that. Just think, pound the food to them, they're gonna gain weight. Yes, that's true, but also they're gonna put on unwanted weight. They're gonna get fat. And if they're fat in the off season, they're gonna have to fucking struggle that much harder to get lean for pre-contest if they're that competitive person. So there's always a double-edged sword. So you gotta, as a trainer, you have to think about what's the next step. You're not worried about the step you're in right now, what's going to be down the road. So if this person wants to eventually compete, you have to keep them in that kind of bubble where they don't get too fluffy in the off season and they still see some muscular. So when you try to pull back the calories, you don't have to pull them back so fast and so hard that their muscle flattens out, they get tired super fast, and then you're just playing this yo-yo game of how can I get them around. So you gotta learn, and that's the hard thing that some trainers, I'm not saying all, but some trainers out there just pound the food to them and then just strip it away. And that's so unhealthy to a client. That just blows my mind. So that's the way I think about nutrition when it comes to any sort of fitness goal, is you have to find that equilibrium with that person and their digestive system. They're both in hand, kind of like linked. And once you figure that out, then you can kind of figure out and manipulate the diet so they start gaining weight in the right way or start losing weight in a way. And you don't have to strip them down to like fucking 1,500 calories. Like, that's just mind-numbingly low. It blows my mind when like a female comes up to me and, oh, this trainer tells me I'm getting ready for a show and I feel so tired because I'm only eating like 1,200 to 1,500 calories. I'm like, it's too low if you ask me, but that's your own prerogative. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that whole subject. That calls it for today. If you guys have any questions in nutrition, training, stuff like that, and this involves the ladies too, please like, subscribe, comment. And I encourage bikinis and the ladies, the fitness, physique girls, start putting questions in my YouTube, and I will specifically make videos just for you guys. So I don't just train males, and that's kind of a pre-notion that a lot of people are thinking about me right now, but I train all across the board. I've had multiple national people that I've trained before. So anyways, catch you guys later, and hope you like the information. More to come.